I find it absolutely disgusting what psychological abuse, okay, has gone on and continues to go on, and the perversion of it all, and how we are all to one extent or another, and some more guilty, some ignorant. We were ignorantly participating in this trash filth, and how we ourselves, including me, okay, this is something, a process that is not at all easy. It's not easy, okay, and it is an experience that is entirely just it is filthy. It's filthy, and as a as a female woman, and the experiences, and um, getting information, getting educated, and from different sources, whether that's through reading, through watching many of you, do your breakdowns and your discussions. There are different sources of this intellect, and just going through that and taking the genius of it, and the time that it takes to go through this without without cussing anyone out, without screaming at anyone, because in all honesty, to even do a reflection of all that has been going on, is it takes a certain type of strength to tell this truth without having any resentment or anguish or anger or rage, which would be rightful, which would be a righteous rage, and a righteous hatred, or a righteous just a righteous resentment towards this filth that we partook in, that we often are, the results of, especially, some of us being mixed and stuff. It's a reality, and the truth of it, the deep truth, the root of it is appalling. Okay, so what was the point of all this? Is that it is absolutely entirely disgusting to see ourselves doing such harm to each other, including me, and not directing it towards where it needs to be directed, not calling, and we need to. We have no choice but to call it out when it happens, right there, right then and there. And also, to not even, I don't know why we waste our time trying to convince the ones who are provoking this, why are we trying to speak to them when they know what they're doing is trifling and disgusting. I don't know how us women ever allowed any man to dictate how we live when it comes to attempting to make a parallel to each other's unvirtuous and derogatory behavior. I mean, it's a far we're in two separate games, because my appearance is not to be regulated, and I am not to give consent, and not even to give my energy to even considering what any male or man dictates is my should or should not. Now, however, when it comes to our bodies, and then taking it upon ourselves and holding ourselves accountable to call that behavior out and be ready to, if need be, defend ourselves, even if the end result is death. And I agree that death is better. However, I think, and I know that that must be part of it has to be negotiated. Is that either either you make this about justice, completely, entirely about justice, or you might as well just get rid of all of us. And do you really believe that being raped and being exploited and being the offspring of just, and nobody was consequenced for that, and then saying that it's part of the past when it's still going on, and how pornography is legal but yet prostitution is not, how the statutes of limitation is able to be adjusted depending on who the guilty party is, and how so many people can turn a blind eye and even defend some of the most atrocious, vile acts. This is just should never ever be. There's never ever an excuse for the exploitation of children, man, women. I don't care, transsexual. I don't care. There is never an excuse for this. And then defending and also giving our attention to what is titled and deemed as celebrities is, to me, and in my opinion, is we have enough problems of our own and should not even be wasting our energy on that when we have enough going on here. I don't care, because them same methods of which they choose to go about their stuff, there's no discretion is ever used when it came to our situations. The fact that if it was suggested that integration were to happen, well, then that should be revoked. Then that should be, I think that should be our mandatory priority. Is I don't want to integrate, and it doesn't matter which history we're going by. Either we were placed on a boat and this happened, and somebody needs to be consequenced, and the audacity, or you might as well just get rid of all of us, and they'll have to clean that up on their own. So even though, yes, it's not a male or female bashing, it's just a desire and need and striving for justice, and speaking on behalf of not using religion, not using political, not using none of those, just going based off of just instinct. And the obvious is that these crimes, these heinous crimes that have gone unpunished, is that if the book is going to be used, then it needs to be used full scale across the board. And if there was not a statute of limitation on that, then somebody owes many of us for being the result of rape, for being the result of ritualistic just filth, for being the result of occult abuse. Okay, an organized crime and hiding this information, allowing these occurrences to go unpunished, to go unconsequenced, leaving children in endangered environments when they knew of these things was going on. How can the U.S. have as many cameras and surveillance as they do, yet they have the audacity to say, have you seen me? Well, hasn't your cameras, if you're able to find someone so-called in a cave all the way, so however many miles away that is, if you can find them with all your technology, then you know where each and every last one. But if you're able to spy on people and to record them, then you know exactly where all these people are. Don't waste. I'm not giving you none of that acknowledgement as to even deem you as worthy of someone respectable or honest, knowing damn well the history of your existence is built based on every inch of it. There's always poison in there. So I say death is better. If you're not willing to uphold them same rules and the same codes and the same laws, if you can only show your presence over here and the people who are, this is the result of your filth, the result of your existence running these countries and these continents, that by the law of nature and by the law of justice, which you don't uphold, by the law of it all, you are not in charge, even though you are, because you forced yourself to be that. You have the army, you have the backup to do that, because you're vile enough to harm people. So I say, if you're going to kill people anyways by either poisoning them, basically coercing them or manipulating them, or being the root cause of why they would consider or go and do suicide or killing each other, it's because of the filth and the lack of accountability. Well, that's not it ain't up to me to hold you accountable. All I'm saying is, either you're going to uphold these laws in accordance to everyone and disregard status and remove this dysfunction, and remove that, or get rid of all of the non-white, non-Caucasian. I don't care, mixed or not. Get rid of all of us then. And then you can clean that up on your own and figure it out from there. But I won't consent to this. And I'm not even speaking on behalf of anyone else. If you wish to live in a system that's broken and think that you're going to be able to gain any respect or to gain what is deserved, that's upon you. However, I'd much rather either this is upheld, it's acknowledged, and something is done. I'm not going to play along with you. I refuse to acknowledge you as worthy of consenting to, for one, and for two, this whole system has been built upon violence and murder. It's a game. It's fun to you. This is what you like. This is what Americans are all about. This system, corrupt as can be, and yet we're your problems. So when you finally get rid of us, since we're causing you all the problems, then you'll be in your perfect European Caucasian occupied world, and it'll be done. That's it. Nothing else there. Now, to you, anyone who, it is appalling. You did not deserve that. We did not deserve this. We are better than this. And it's absolutely filthy. And it should be, it should bother you. It should entirely bother us that we have people that look like us who are willing to abide to this in the efforts of destroying us. With that being said, I have no idea how. I don't care what amount of abuse that we undeservingly have put up with, tolerated, and experienced. Nothing should convince anyone to desire to be like, become, and do the disgraceful actions and behaviors and harassment and the degradation and murder and abusive structure that Americans and the colonizers and oppressors uphold. All the technology in the world, all the so-called riches in the world should never convince any of us, anyone who has any dignity, anyone who has even an inkling of intelligence would never condone this. At some point, we have to know that in the face of all this, death is better. Because, what is death anyhow? And what is living if you can't live in justice? If you have to live a lie and to pretend and to give energy to someone we don't know, and to give our energy and power to someone who has never saved us and could never save us according to what's been going on. Death is better. And they should be able to do that easily. Either that or this, it has to be removed. There's no way. There's no other way other than justice and this structure being upheld with truth and justice, not partial, not lies and distorted comprehension and consequences for some, and this one, especially if you're not in the likeness of the system. There's nothing supreme or superior about adventurous murder. There's nothing superior about this. That is parasitic and virus-like. I think actually you could probably parallel serial killer to a virus parasite. And calling it white is inadequate and unnecessary. Because evidently there are many brown people, non-Caucasian, non-white people who have had no problem oppressing us as well. Okay? So, justice, truth, comprehension, knowledge, the will for justice, everywhere. And if justice cannot be upheld everywhere, then death of all non-European, non-Caucasian, non-white, everyone who does not benefit from their system, who's being exploited. Just get rid of them. They have all the technology and weapons and resources to do that. And then it will be over. Because living in this and attempting to pretend that it's acceptable is not worth living in, ever. And I will not join in to harm and partake in the murder of people who do not deserve that, who do not deserve to be victims of this form of abuse. Because this is worse than hell when it's acceptable and unconsequenced to harm children, murder children, exploit children, rape children.